I'm Sister Patricia Ruether, a member of St. Benedict's Monastery, and I'm here to speak about stewardship. Benedictine values are not unique values separate from each other, and they don't belong just to monasteries and abbeys. They're a way of life centered in God. When you're talking about a specific value, you're really just looking at all values from one perspective. My perspective today is that of stewardship. Benedict teaches that we are to seek God in all things. We often use the short prayer that in all things God may be glorified. This includes possessions as well as people and events. We are told in chapter 31 of the Rule of Benedict to regard the utensils and goods of the monastery as sacred vessels, aware that nothing is to be neglected. One should not be prone to greed, nor the wasteful or extravagant use of the goods of the monastery, but should do everything in moderation. That is a pretty good definition of stewardship. Webster describes stewardship as conducting, supervising, or managing of something, especially the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. Careful and responsible, such as stewardship of natural resources. The definition our community uses for stewardship is, we value simplicity and frugality as we reverence all of creation and care for the goods of the earth. Brian Taylor, in his book, Spirituality of Everyday Living, says that the theology of stewardship is to seek God in all things, but at the same time to be detached from them. Once we truly respect material things and see them as gift, we are free to enjoy them. Esther de Waal has a similar definition of stewardship. She says it should mean trusteeship. The responsible, again that word responsible, holding in trust of something only temporarily loaned to us for its good usage. Sister Joan Chittister tells us it's all about mindfulness, seeing everything as one, people of the earth, resources of the earth, products of the earth. We need to recognize our connectedness. We must understand that we have been allotted our portion of the goods of the earth, but the goods are not for our own personal consumption. We own the goods of the earth in common with the poor. We must learn the difference between having it all and having everything we need. This stewardship understands that one will have what one needs, no more, no less. One should have what is needed for a decent standard of living, but this carries with it responsibilities. What one has needs to be treated with care, not exploited, as we heard Benedict tell us. We strive not to get into the pitfall of that media endorses today. That is, use, toss, buy more, accumulate, just because we can, even if we don't need it. This can only lead to the greater inequity of access to basic resources, those who have and those who don't. We continually need to be aware of at what point the possessions possess us, and just how much is enough. It's a constant struggle. Stewardship is especially important today in today's world. Pope Francis articulates this so well in his encyclical letter, Laudato Si, on the care of our common home. It outlines and details how we must steward the environment in which we live and share with all of creation. Pope Paul VI, back in 1971, referred to the ecological concern as a tragic consequence of unchecked human activity. And I quote, "Due to an ill-considered exploitation of nature, humanity runs the risk of destroying it and becoming in turn a victim of this degradation." He stressed the urgent need for a radical change in the conduct of humanity. That was 40 years ago. Again in 2014, Pope Francis commented similar concerns. I quote, "We encounter certain rather selfish lifestyles, marked by an opulence which is no longer sustainable, and frequently indifferent to the world around us, and especially to the poorest of the poor." He said, "To our dismay, we see technology and economic questions dominating our political debates, to the deterrent of genuine concern for the common good, the concern for human beings. Men and women risk their being reduced to mere cogs in a machine that treats them as items of consumption to be exploited." Those are pretty strong words. So, what do we do? What does this say to all of us? How do we choose to live based on these concerns? Good stewardship calls us to care for ourselves, body and spirit, as well as material creation. To be mindful of God's presence in ourselves, in others, and reflected in the rest of the universe will shape our attitude of respect and reverence. This then carries over into how we use our land, our buildings, what we put in on our lawns, or how we grow a garden. It can shape our choices of food and where we buy it. Do we supersize our takeout meals and then toss what we don't eat? Respect and reverence for all things will affect how and in what we make investments. It will help us think twice about using massive amounts of disposables to bloat our landfills and pollute our oceans. The examples could be just numerous and endless. Yet, as we consider all these things, it allows us to adjust our mindset on what is enough and what is really needed. We are more apt to build a community with the common good as the center rather than ourselves. We carry out the slogan, reduce, reuse, recycle, as an automatic routine rather than one of toss, upgrade, amass. Otherwise, those who have get more, and those who have less grow in number. Stewardship is about we, not about me. Stewardship is about how we care for all things, how we reverence ourselves, how we need to choose not what is the most economical for me right now, but what will be most beneficial for the whole, the common good. It is this conscience that asks, is this how I want to be treated? How are others affected by my choices? Does the earth, our common home, rejoice and revive because of my actions and choices. We have a choice to choose life or death. Do we choose life for our planet and all its inhabitants? Or do we choose a slow depletion and death? Yes, stewardship is very inclusive. Frugality, simplicity, mindfulness, detachment, trusteeship, respect, reverence, common good, sustainability, all woven in and through each other. I encourage you to some evening sit down and reflect on your actions of the past day and the choices you made and how you stewarded all of creation. What did you do to help ensure the health of the world for the next generation? Not out of guilt, but out of awareness of God, so that in all things God may be glorified.